Not yet.
There we go. Let's just do that one here. All right.
Now we
So
can. Yeah, we're good now.
here's the login. You can get there's a 14-day guest access. So you can always just do this and get in and play with it. But I'll just log into it here. And so here's what it looks like. And so the first thing you want to do is you want to go up to your account here, manage account, and you'll go in and you're going to fill in, your company information because this is going to fill in throughout your whole business plan. So this is, you know, and I put two different names in here because your company legal name, this is going to be like my example I was using like Ford Motor Company Inc. So that's going to be on your letterhead, your top of your documents, the top of your plans, top of everything. But throughout the document, you're not going to say Ford Motor Company. You're going to say Ford. At Ford we do this. At Ford we do that. So this is the company legal name and the company alias, or you could acronym. I'm not a big fan of acronyms. It's really easy to kind of like there's so many different meanings of acronyms. I really would just tell you that to avoid using an acronym in your name if possible, because. Anyway, so you fill in all your other information. This information will fill in throughout your documents where needed. So it's kind of like back in the day, we called it mail merge. So it just automatically fills in the variables. Anyways, there's all that. And then you go over, there's more things to do, but that's really the important stuff. On this page here, it's called home page, but really what it is, looking at it, it's a business model canvas. So it's, I'd say a canvas on steroids because typically in a business model canvas, you're going to see, 3 or 4 lines here, different place. It'd be a little poster you'd have next to the coffee machine. But if you're really looking at what are the values and practices of this company, you're going to look in here and you're going to see, okay, here they are. And there's the green text we put in because we want to give you commentary. So like we're sitting next to you saying, hey, think about this, think about that. Don't forget this. Watch out for this, kind of a thing. So there's all kinds of stuff. But there's a button right here. You just turn that off or turn it back on, whatever you want to do. But you can see this is a lot of stuff here you can put in as our core values, if you will. Here's what we're all about. You see these in different places. And of course, the idea of everything we have here is you can edit it and make it your own. So there's a whole lot of stuff. This is like the complete shopping list of everything you possibly could have as your ways of being here. So listening generously, by the way, that's a kind of a relatively new concept. That's where you're actually actively listening to somebody. Like they may not be saying it right, or they may say some things badly, but you're really looking for like, what is really the gist of what you're trying to tell me here? And that's what listening generously is. I'm really trying to understand what you're really trying to say, despite maybe your not so eloquent way of expressing it. So there's that. Anyway, and you can click the plus sign here and add a new document if you want. You can just go in and start typing some stuff, and then you could add a replacement field here, and then you can so now you can have a save. You can save it. It's a reusable template of your own creation. You can do that. So I'll make one here, and then if you go into this, but you see this is the document that's created. There's a master document here that you can't erase, destroy, whatever, screw up. So it lives there. But when you open it up with the magnifying glass, you get the template. And then if you want to edit that template, you click the pencil thing there, and you can see you've got the editor on. I would leave the green text in place at this point because, well, that's the part. This is when you actually need to read it. But you can see you can go in here, and change it and just add to it, if you want. And then you, of course, save it as a template. And that's what you use. That's what we've done here with ours, doing it ourselves. And it saves it. And now it's locked. Well, it's set in concrete, but you can always redo it. It's easy to do, but there it is. So that way, now let's say you have your people can come in and let's look what are the values and practices of this company? What are the customer segments? What's good about our product? What are our competitive advantages? How do we sell this? Who are our partners? My theory is, and I still stick by it, is that really everybody in your company should know how to sell the company, sell the product, sell the service, understand what's going on. What a concept if everybody knows what everybody else is doing. So all hands, know what, you know what's going on. You're talking to each other. And that's usually the problem is people just don't talk to each other. And that's unfortunate. Anyway, so the business plan, which is really the key ingredient here, everything on the business plan is on one panel. So you've got, this is like a to-do list over here. I won't get into that, but it's like, anyway, it's just, I wanted to have a place where you can keep track of things you got to do because it's so easy to forget stuff. And so the business plan builder here, this is my original product. And You can, add a new one here. It's really easy. Well, yeah, I'll show you. But let's see. The Cannabis Club is my fun one to show, really. And it just opens up. So the thing opens up, and you can see the information from before fills in. But you can go in and change it. You're going to add, the name of the plan. You're going to put a different company name in this case, but the address and stuff is in here. You add a founder. You add a number of founders in here. There's not a lot of information to put, but this information will also input. You'll see here throughout. And of course, you can edit it. You can change it. I want it to be totally flexible. Now you'll get in and say, okay, what business are we in? And rather than trying to do a checkbox or whatever, how would you say this throughout your document? In this particular case, we are in the cannabis essential oils industry. So think of it, in context. Everything is in some kind of context. In this case, it's in a sentence. This will show up, in different ways. You'll see it in a moment, but this will show up repeatedly in different places. But this is what you're looking for here. Anyway, and then you'll say, okay, what category of business am I in? I could be all over the place. You could be a business service. You could be doing something else. You could be doing all these different kinds of things. And so there's all kinds of variations of this plan in here. And we want to give you a starting point where it's got most of the stuff that's relevant to what you're trying to do. This down here is just like, 2020, this established, your fiscal year ends. I don't know why people end their fiscal years in the middle of the year. There must be a reason for it. It just seems like it's much easier to do.
No, I haven't figured that out either.
Calendar year, so there's that. Now, here's something. These are all the components of the business plan. Now, I'll admit right off, it seemed like a really great idea. Let's show people all the different areas of the business plan. Well, that seemed to backfire right there because there's, you look at it, you go, oh my God, this is a horrific amount of stuff to do. And so what I'm actually having my programmers do right not as we speak, but they're working on it. One of the things I want them to do is simply open this up where it's all collapsed. That way it's not quite as daunting when you first see it. Close a few of these up here. And you'll see what the original actually looked like, and it'll make a lot of sense to you. And so hang on, come on. So here, now you can see the basics of a business plan. You want to talk about the executive summary because investors, they want to see the 2-pager because they're thinking, I see deals all day long, every day. I'm looking for them, but I just want to know, is this something that I can get behind right off the bat? Or is this something that's like not my thing, but maybe I'll tell somebody else about it. So that's what the summary is about. Then you get into like, what's the problem? So you get into like the market opportunity. So all these different sections are sections of the business plan. And originally, this whole market opportunity page would be one giant Word document that you would go in and edit. And here we've got, it's all the content is in here. And what you're seeing here that's different from other business plans is that most of them, like from the SBA and SCORE, they don't have this content. This is the hard work. And this is the part where you can say, well, okay, I'll use AI to do this. But if you don't really know what you're trying to say in here to begin with, the AI doesn't know, and it's going to make stuff up. And it just does that. And, and if you use AI, whatever, I would just say this in general, using it, proofread it. Because I see a lot of weird emails come through. I hear some strange scripts online. It's really remarkable what AI can do, but you need to proofread, especially these days, because it ain't ready for prime time, in my opinion. Anyway, you can see cannabis essential oils appears here, and it shows up. The company name is in here, so it's kind of, there it is again. And, you're going to go in here and you're going to say, okay, I don't need this You're getting a lot of paragraphs. So these are all ideas of what you could, would, should maybe say. And maybe you don't need that. Because you see, there's an editor right up here, so you can see it's really easy to just go in and do it. And we give you some ideas like get some quote from a prominent magazine and put it in here and do a number of things. And one thing I'll share with you that, it was a recent revelation was that you can, oh, by the way, there's if this page comes up blank, the template for it is here. So you just click this button to add the template into the blank section. And there's an explanation that tells you, what is this about? What's this, what do you need to think about here? Keeping it short, as you can see, because a lot of the actual explanation, there's some explanation within here would be in green. This one doesn't have it, but there's the explanation. There's a place for notes. where you can type in like outside of the plan, you can leave some comments on it. You can write comments in the plan as well. And then pretty much like every section's got a video. I mean, I made a whole bunch of videos for every one of these sections where I'm explaining, okay, look, this is what investors and lenders are looking for in this section. This is what to keep in mind here. So you've got that kind of instruction to keep you going. But you can see over in the menu on the left, the market analysis used to be part of this, market trends used to be part of this. And so what we wanted to do was really make these into, bite-sized pieces that you could work on. And you don't have to include them all. You say, I'm not including marketing stability, so don't check the box. Here's some market segments down here, but I don't care about behavior. I don't care about psychographic. I just want demographic and geographic segmentation. So you're going to get the sections that you actually need to use. That's why we pair these in all these little subsections and why it looks so daunting at first, because we wanted to make all these sections like, bite-sized pieces. So if you're working in a team as you can, different ones of your team members are working on different pieces of this thing. And so different people in the company can work on it. But then again, at the end of the day, everybody can see it. So here you've got green text. You're going to go in it as you edit. You're going to delete this, but at least it's here so you can get a sense of things. There's graphics here. Now, we don't include the graphics in here, but let me show you something. If you wanted to include a graphic, what I do, this is cannabis. What you do, and we tell you this right here in the explanation, use infographics. You're aware of these, but these infographics, like the plethora of infographics these days is just astounding. So what you would do is you type in infographic, image, keyword, keyword, keyword. And since we're in the cannabis business, over here on another tab, I've got infographic cannabis market USA. And you can see, this is your market research. People have a hard time doing market research. There's thousands of dollar market research reports, but this to me is like the best hack ever, because you can go in here and just grab, whatever you need. Here's one. Here's one. I'll grab one. Right click it, and it's going to say copy the image address, come back to your plan, get into the content, go to that section you want to copy it to, click here, click on the insert the icon. And here you can either upload an image from your computer, so you upload your own logos and pictures and stuff, or you grab something off the internet, type it in there, bang, there it is. And so now you've got this nice infographic in there. And of course you can drag it to fit. But this is how you really do your market analysis, if you will. This is stuff you can do the same thing on your pitch deck, and you get all these really, this is where the whole thing here, what's important is that you're believable, because investors these days, and I'm on several panels where we look at people's business plans and business pitches and things, and they're, every single one of them are all looking at the entrepreneur. They're looking at you. They want to, first of all, what's a nice person like you doing in a business like this? How'd you get into this? Which is why I went into that explanation of where I was coming from. I didn't just pull this business plan idea out of the air. I had a genuine need for it. I had a diverse background, which gave me some skills and credibility to put something like this together. And then I had successes with people using it, or doing it for them. And then I made this tool for myself, which other people could use. And then I've used it myself and built a business. So all of that adds to some credibility. So why would you invest with me? Because, well, I would say I know what I'm doing here. So the idea that's really what you want to, that's what we're trying to help you do. And it's telling you this is also because investors want to know, they're betting on the horse, they're betting on the jockey, not the horse. Although it's tempting to bet on the horse. And nevertheless, they're betting on you because you're the one who's making the decisions. You're the one who's, taking their money and hiring the people and, building the business with it. So they're looking at your background. What's a nice person like you doing a business like this? How do you, who's your team? Who have you got to make sure you do all the right stuff the right way? And that's really where the business plan can help, because part of it is, you're working with your team. And you want to know, like, get on paper or on screen here, like, okay, what are you thinking? And what am I thinking? And how are we going to do this? And that way you're working out ahead of time, maybe possible disagreements you might have, or, whatever, you're working together and you're collaborating on this thing. So it's easier to collaborate here on this model, on this plan, before you actually start spending money getting into the business and doing all this work, getting down the road and realize, oh, we should have done this differently. We should have rethink this. Well, here's your chance to really think it through here. It's kind of like a movie script. you're not going to see a movie green lighted in Hollywood without a script. That's just ain't going to happen unless maybe you're Steven Spielberg and you can write it on an app and go, here's this idea. Give me $100 million. I'll make this film. But that's unless, in that case, that's a different bet. Anyway, but yeah, so these guys, so, they're betting on the jockey, not the horse. And as you know, horse races are often won or lost by a nose. And the difference between Olympic gold and silver can be down to like 100th of a second. And so I say that because details matter. And these guys, these investors are detail oriented. Ask Paul. He's been dealing with them forever.
Yeah,
And
they are.
the number of questions they ask and about this and what about that and how are you going to do this and what about the risks and blah, 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 blah. Oh my God. They'll drive you in. But that's why this is the way it is, because it answers all these guys' questions. And how it's evolved over the years is to address all those questions. And there's even a thing down here in competition. And I think it's under, I forget where I put it, but it may be under competitive advantages. But I remember I was asking, here's competitive advantages. I'm looking at competitive challenges. They want to know about your competition because that's a big deal.
Let me just jump in here real quick and say, you can really blow the investors away by having this much detail, because there's probably no question they can ask that hasn't been covered if you're doing a really thoughtful and detailed business plan, like using business power tools. So anyway, go ahead, Burke. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, there's something else I wanted to address here. This is something kind of unusual that wasn't going to cross most people's minds. But I'm reading this book called The Ho Chi Minh Guerrilla Warfare Handbook. Like, who reads stuff like that? But anyway, but it's really about, how did the Vietnamese get America out of Vietnam? And so, but then respoken into a marketing context. So, for example, so my question here in this indirect competition is, if you win, who loses? And this may sound snarky or a bit conspiracy theorist like, but the cancer industry is a $150 billion industry. If you cure cancer, what happens to that industry? They don't like you. They're there to make money on treating the problem, which is really an unfortunate thing, but that's the way a lot of things are in our world. So you and your little friends may not be welcome here. And so you want to address this. Maybe that's true or it's not true, but you want to think about that and say, okay, how can we address a real problem that looks like the people in place, supposedly handling the problem aren't handling the problem. They're just making money on it. And you actually want to solve the problem. And so this is where I come in, because I actually want you to solve the problem, because there's a bunch of problems. And what he points out in this book is that most of the problems in the world have been solved. It's just that the reason you're not seeing the solutions in place is because, well, the people in place in the places of power, they're making money on it. So anyway, I digress. I won't get it. But I do address this because you don't want to step in something or do this. Like, for example, this one guy, he went and he was remediating all his garbage in Las Vegas. He didn't realize that the garbage company in Las Vegas was run by the mob. Now, if you've watched The Godfather, it's real simple. You go to the head of the mob and say, I got this idea. I think I can make you some money. You go get permission. I'm off on a tangent, but I'm just saying it's one of those things that you really want to, some things to consider. So that's just something. But, there's all these different bits in here.
And by the way, the mob boss would probably like to see this business plan too, before he gives you permission.
Yeah, you want to be real careful with those guys. I've never dealt with one, so I wouldn't know. But I've watched The Godfather a few times. So you see some of these things. They're actually pretty reasonable. But anyway, nevertheless. So you want to address risks. This is one of those things here where investors, if you want to, there's no risks. Yeah, there are risks. You want to know what they are, because more often than not, you're going to be in an industry where the investors know more about your industry than you do. You may be an expert on solving this problem and you figured it out. But as far as the industry goes, these guys have been investing in this industry for probably a long time. And investors, they realize the learning curve on different industries is pretty steep. But if you get good in one industry and you invest in industries, in like a lot of the investors are going after the AI, it's a new learning curve. But, med tech, these investors know about med tech. Some of them won't touch a drug. Some of them are all about drugs. So they know the industry. And they've bet on other companies like yours or different than yours, but in that industry before, and they know what can and will go wrong. And so what they want to know what you know. They want to know. In fact, I was sitting at one of Paul's events, and I'm sitting next to a guy who writes checks for $1 million. And I said to him, I said, kind of a morbid curiosity, I'm afraid that, oh no, people don't like business plans anymore. I said, do you read business plans still? And he goes, hell yes, I read business plans. And I said, well, why is that? He goes, I want to know what you know. I want to know what you're thinking. I want to know how you think. I want to know what you've addressed. I want to make sure you understand your business. This is a man who writes $1 million checks. So they definitely are all about the business plan. And so if you've written it with AI, which you can do, and you could go in here, I suppose you could take this thing, say, take this text and do it better. But look at this content is here because we already know what you need to say. You don't have to go figure it out. We'll waste more time trying to figure out what to say with a blank thing or a free thing. This is $27 a month, by the way. So it's not trying to stick it to you. I'll get rich.
There's also a student discount.
There's a student discount. Yeah, the student discount's like $97 a year, so that's even a better deal. So, so for the time that you'll save, this will put you in front of investors a good 3 to 6 months earlier. So I would say that because we're telling you what to say here and why. So you've got this, and there's other risks in here, and so there's business risks. What are these risks? And of course, they might not have all these things here, but you want to address this. You want to be able to stand up in front of a room. And I was at an investor conference and they had everybody sitting around this big table. All these people could write a check for your whole deal. So whoever these entrepreneurs are up there pitching it, I wasn't pitching that day, but I'm watching this. And one question was, so they asked the CEO pitching it, so what happens if you get hit by a bus? Which is a polite way of saying if you die or disappear, if something goes wrong with you, whatever, you're out of the picture. And he stood there like a deer in headlights, like, I don't know. I haven't thought about that. Well, you want to think about that because it's a definite possibility. These investors have seen it before. There was a prominent computer company up in Silicon Valley back in the day called Eagle Computer, really a good PC at the time, one of the best. And they went public. And it's like the CEO went public. Yay, my IPO is a success. I'm buying a Ferrari because that's what you do. And so, he goes out, he buys a Ferrari, he's drinking champagne to celebrate. Guess what? Wraps a Ferrari around a tree and kills himself. Where's that company today? So this is the kind of thing some of these investors, they've seen it. And so the question, what happens if you get hit by a bus? And so you need to have an answer, which is, well, first of all, I've got a team around me. So you've got a team, they can fill in, they can do this. You can't miss a beat in these kind of questions. You just need to be able to come right back and say, I got a team around me. We also have key person insurance, so I can either give you your money back or we hire a recruiter to replace me. And the third thing said, and if I'm, or maybe we've thought about that, we wondered about that, we've considered it. If you've got some good ideas, I'd love to hear them because we haven't solved that problem yet. But as long as you can at least come back and say, we're thinking about that, don't have the answer. If you've got one, I'd love to hear it. At least you've demonstrated that you're aware of it. That's the thing. They want to know that you're aware of stuff and you're not skirting the issue. And you don't lead with risks, but you can't shy away from them. You want to say, yeah, let me tell you about the risk. We've got an environmental risk here. The weather could be a problem. Of course, in the cannabis business, and this is business plan, you could have a weather problem if you're growing outside. So anyway, there's all that. You can, this so there's all these different areas, the business concept, the different competition, your marketing strategy, all this stuff is in here. And you can see what to do. We have different, you can see there's an or, say it this way, or say it that way, or, so there's different options. What you do is you go through here, you choose the sections you're going to include. You go through and you read this. And what you're going to do is you're probably just going to say, let's delete the stuff I'm not going to work with. Delete this one. Keep this. And you can see the Cannabis Club is in here. You got all this. Anyway, so you're going to go in and pare it down first. And that's the first thing. But you're going to read it through and you get a sense of, here's a whole bunch of different ways I can address this. And it's just, the idea is, you want to be able to, you're not going to win. You're not going to get a check. I'll say it's unlikely you're going to get a check on your first pitch. Everybody talks about the pitch deck. It's all about the pitch deck. Well, yeah, you get them interested, but then it's going to take 6 months before they write you a check. And they're going to ask you questions. They're going to wake up tomorrow. They'll be excited, but they're going to wake up tomorrow and they're going to call their technical friend and say, does this make sense to you? And they're going to call their marketing friend and he goes, does this make sense to you? And then their marketing friends and technical friends and financial friends and other friends are going to ask, well, what about this? And what about